Hi everybody, we're in the kitchen making Egyptian kofta. And we have 1¼ pounds ground lean beef, and I have 80/20, and you can see it's a good price, $2.99. I got this at Aldi. The weight is actually 2.36 pounds, and so I took some out, so we wanted to get 1¼ pounds. I don't have plum tomatoes, but I do have these little grape tomatoes, and we'll just chop those up to get a ½ cup. We've got our cilantro, which we'll chop up, our onion, our ground cumin, kosher salt, and we've got our bowls, cutting board, measuring spoon, measuring cup, paring knife, chef's knife, and we'll start getting everything cut up. Now, with regard to the onion that we're cutting for this, we want them really fine. We want them very tiny. We are making sort of like a meatloaf or a meatball mixture, and if the onions are too big, when we make the koftas, which are little torpedo shaped or even meatball shaped, they could fall apart if it's not chopped really, really small. So I'll take care of getting that done and show you how to make the rest of it. I've chopped up the onion nice and fine. You can see it's nicely cut, small, thin. And so you see, this is a rather large onion. So I already have 1 cup of onion, and this was plenty for the recipe. So you know what, I'm going to put in here a note that it's 1 cup. And let's make that a medium, because sometimes my large could be somebody's medium, my medium could be somebody's large. So the best way also to make sure everything is always correct for everybody is to always put measurements. So we'll put 1 cup, so that way people know that you want to get 1 cup of finely chopped onion. And so be it medium, large, but at least you want to get 1 cup. So, you know, we'll leave it at that. Next, I'm going to chop up our cherry tomatoes, or grape tomatoes, and I need a ½ cup. So there's a ½ cup measure, so I'm going to cut them also very fine and make sure I get a ½ cup. I'm chopping up the grape tomatoes, and you can see I'm doing it really small. And obviously, if you had a plum tomato, it would make it much easier, but it's a bit of a pain to chop up all of these grape tomatoes. Cutting them in half first, then into 4s, and then cutting small little tiny pieces out of each of these 4s. So it will take you a bit of time to prepare the tomatoes probably, but you do want them small, so to make the effort to make sure that they're small. Here we have our cilantro, Queen Victoria, my brand. All right, so anyhow, this is from California. I also got this at Aldi, and it was like 79 cents, which is awesome. So we're going to rinse this under water and clean it, and then I'm going to pull off a lot of the stems from the stalk and then chop them nice and fine as well. Now, I washed this, and the cilantro, for the most part, we just want to remove the stalks at the bottom. And remember, we're not going to waste anything, so this I'm going to put in the freezer, and we'll save that for a chicken stock or a vegetable stock. So I'm just going to cut right here and save all of these stems to go into a vegetable stock. And then we're gonna finely chop this. So I'm gonna keep going like this over and over and over again until it's nice and fine. So I have to do that off camera. I have the finely chopped cilantro in our mixing bowl, and I'm gonna stir these all together first and then add the ground beef. We're gonna add in our 1 cup of finely chopped onion, our ½ cup of finely chopped grape tomatoes. You could use regular tomatoes, plum tomatoes. And then here is our kosher salt and our cumin. All right, so I'm just going to use my hands. Let me stir this all together first, and then we will add the ground beef. And I like to use my hands to stir this all together and then to stir in the ground beef. You know, it's one of those textural things. You like to feel the meat. So I'm putting in a small amount, and I'm working the ingredients into the ground beef, basically squeezing them in. Add some more. Do a little bit at a time instead of just dumping the whole thing in at once. Makes it a little easier to mix it all in completely. And you can see this is a really beautiful mixture. We've got all this bright green, and this is going to taste so good. This is my husband's recipe. My husband grew up in Alexandria, Egypt, and so he makes this for us all the time. He uses halal beef, It gets out at the Hall Butchers, but that's kind of hard to come by. So I'm just using beef from Aldi. All right, let's get the rest of that in. So you can see you add it in small batches and keep stirring until you have it completely in and all of it worked together. It's like making meatloaf or meatballs, okay? It's the same thing. You're adding in your ingredients into your meat mixture, and you want to really get it completely mixed. So I just squeeze it in and stir it in. If you don't want to use your hands, obviously use a wooden spoon or a spatula, and you can stir it all together. But this is actually kind of fun. This is like where, you know, the mud pie making comes into play. The kids like doing this part at home too. They're like squishing it all in and then shaping all the torpedoes, so which is good because that takes a long time, shaping all those torpedoes. All right, so now that our mixture is completely mixed in, I'm going to make the torpedoes. So if you don't want to make torpedoes, you could just make meatball size ones, and that's fine. But I prefer the torpedo shape. And having a bowl of water really helps. So if your hands are wet, it makes it much easier. The meat mixture doesn't stick to it. Now, normally you can use two hands. Since I'm holding the camera with the one hand, I'm using this, trying to make it with just one hand to show you the shape. So we want a torpedo, and you want to compact it because you don't want it to fall apart while it's cooking. And we're making a torpedo shape. So that you can make that type of shape easier with two hands than one. And you can make a whole bunch of these and put them on the plate, so that way you're ready when you're ready to cook. They're all there and ready to go. You can make these a variety of different shapes. They make the longer ones on a skewer to cook on the street with like an outdoor grill. So like, you know, in New York we have our hot dogs at the outdoor stands. In Egypt they have the kofta at the outdoor food stalls where they have little barbecue grills, and they grill it, and it comes on a long wooden skewer, and they're much longer. They're thin and long, and they have the wooden skewer on the inside, and then they just put it down on the grill, flip it over, etc. So, but we're making these today in the torpedo shape. So here are all of our torpedoes ready to go. And I've got our frying pan over medium-high heat. Now, my husband likes to make this with like a 1/4 cup of oil, so they're practically fried in oil. I like to make it with a tiny little dash of oil because the meat is already pretty fatty. It's 80-20, so there already is a lot of fat in there, and I just want a little oil at the bottom of the pan. I like to make everything with less oil, heart healthy, etc. So I'm going to let that heat up, and then we can start getting these cooked. So I'll start with the ones in the bowl, and I have our tongs. I need to turn them, and so you're going to keep an eye on it. And let's see, we'll put one in first, see if it sizzles. Yeah, okay. So we're going to put these in and kind of do it in order so you can remember which ones go in first. And then that way you can rotate them in order that they go in the pan, and they'll cook evenly that way. Now, my husband likes to make these on the grill too, outside in the summer. So you can either do it on the grill or in the frying pan. I don't want to overfill it, so I'm just going to stick that many on here. And we're going to brown them on each side. So I'm going to let this cook for a couple, maybe 30 seconds, and then rotate it. Let's see how they're doing. We want them to brown on all sides, and I have it on this sort of like high heat right now. And we'll let it cook a little bit longer. The tongs might actually not be good. to flip them. Or maybe I'll get a hamburger flipper. That might work better. So that way it doesn't fall apart from squeezing it. And we want to brown on all sides, but then we have to cook all the way through. So I'm gonna have it on a high heat for right now, and then I'll turn down the heat to finish cooking. So I don't think they're ready to flip. I'm gonna have to come back and check them out. All right, so what I'm doing is I'm making sort of like a 45-degree turn on this and getting it on its side. So when you see it's got the golden brown color forming on the sides, then you want to continue to rotate it. So we want to get all sides with this golden brown coloring. So just keep flipping it over so they're done on all sides. And these are quite large, so they're going to take a while to cook. Your patience. And of course you want to make sure they're completely cooked all the way through. So there's a lot of steam coming up, and that comes from the water vapor that's in our cilantro, tomatoes, and onions. So you can see there's a lot. So it's going to take a while. And what we're looking for we want this dark brown on all the sides. So if you notice that it's not completely cooked, just going to keep rotating it until you get all sides this nice brown color. And when you do, and you're ready to come out, I have a plate here with paper towel. I'm going to put it there so that will absorb any of the excess grease. Now this is a small one. This is one of the first I went in, and this is probably ready. So see, we got brown on all sides. So I'm going to take that out, let it sit there, and I'll finish with all of the rest. So I've got the first batch out, wrapped in the middle, and then I've added the next batch. And again, I'm going to do the same thing. Keep cooking them until they're all golden brown on the outside. You can see comparison, they shrink quite a bit. Okay? So just remember that when you're making them, and the raw ground beef, that they will shrink quite a bit. So make them a bit big. And then again, you want to let them sit on the physicalities of the excess fat. Hi, I just wanted to also mention, my husband insisted I tell you that you can also serve this Middle Eastern style. You could put these inside a pita bread with some tahini, and that's another Middle Eastern way of serving it. These are kofta, and this is Egyptian style meatballs, kofta, and we did it inside on the grill pan, and they turned out beautiful. You can also do them over a charcoal flame and they would turn out even better. So enjoy.